everyone, and welcome to Billy's Place. This is show number 8. I'm so glad that you're here. You know, I have people from all over the world watching the show, and I welcome all the newcomers who are here for the first time, and I welcome all the repeat people that are here again, all my friends from Japan and Australia and New Zealand and Ireland and England and Canada. I welcome you. I'm really excited about this show. This is a big show, another big show I should say. And I've been prepping for it for days and rehearsing and practicing and doing a little research on some things, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. If you would be so kind, hit your share button so we can get the word out to everybody that's your friend, and etc., etc. So get the word out as much as we can. And as you know, these shows are free for you. This is my 8th show. It is all free for you. But if you are so inclined, there's a PayPal link and there's a Venmo link if you'd like to send in a little something to support what I'm doing here and to keep on with these shows that I've been doing. I'd love to keep doing them. That would be great. And a portion of any of the proceeds that come in go to the MusiCares program, which helps musicians around the world. It's a wonderful program, and especially during times such as these. So do that if you like. And I want to thank all the people that have sent in donations over the last 2 months now. I've been doing it. Really appreciate it. And I always make a point to thank you guys personally. So just so you know, if you send in something, I'll personally write you a note of thanks and gratitude. So anyway, I always like to start my show with a little humor. So here's the joke du jour. So this guy's going across the desert. He's dying of thirst. He sees a blue light on a building, and he goes up to the blue light on the building. He knocks on the door, and a guy opens the door, and he goes, "You're in luck. I got beautiful neckties from Neiman Marcus, only $300 today." And the guy goes, "I just need a glass of water. I'm thirsty." And the guy goes, "All right, look, 3 ties, $100 each." You guys, you don't understand. I need some water. I'm thirsty over here. The guy goes, "All right, 1 tie, $75. He says, "I'm thirsty. I just need a glass of water." The guy goes, "Look, go over to that house over there. You see that house with the white light? Go over there. Maybe they can help you." He goes over, knocks on the door, dying of thirst, knocks on the door. Guy opens the door. He says, "Can I get a drink of water, please? I'm really thirsty." The guy goes, "Don't you know you can't get in here without a tie?" Hello, my friends. It's good to see you again. Guess it's been a few years since I've been away, but I'm happy to say I'm doing okay myself. I can dig what's happening, and every day there is something new at hand. Good things are coming my way. So tell me, have you been? There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we laugh and say, "Hey, hey, man, you're okay. Don't go away so soon now. Oh, it's a brand new year. Lots of things are happening, and hey, good things are coming my way." Tell me, have you been? There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we laugh and say, "Hey, hey, hey, life, okay. Don't go away so soon now. Let's get on back into that groove. Stick around for a couple of days, 'cause hey, good things are coming my way. Good things I don't think the Beach Boys would mind that I borrowed that Sloop John B. Anyway, wow, let's get right into it. I'm going to tell you about my dear friend DESI ARNAZ Jr. Boy, oh boy, we go back. We met in grammar school, and as far as Dino, DESI, and Billy, I was already best friends with Dino, and got to know his family and spent lots of time over the Martin house. But with DESI, I was just getting used to him and his whole family, and I met his mother and stepfather, and I was about to meet his father, Big DESI as we call him, DESI ARNAZ Sr. We were going to go down to his home in Del Mar, where he lived. He had a couple of homes actually, one in Mexico. He had a horse ranch in Coronado that I went to once, which was fabulous. But we were going to go down and spend the weekend at Del Mar. And DESI had a family driver. His name was Frank Gorey, great guy. He used to drive Lucy, DESI's mom, and doing errands and this and that. And Frank was going to drive us down to Del Mar. And back in those days, there wasn't even a San Diego freeway. There was no 405 from LA to Del Mar, which was San Diego County. So it was a pretty good long drive getting there, and I was very excited, to meet DESI's father. I mean, Ricky Ricardo to me and everyone else. I was only, in 1964, I'm only 13 years old, and I had not seen a whole lot, but I was familiar with I Love Lucy, of course, everyone was. So it was a thrill to think that I was going to meet him. I mean, years later I would discover the impact that he would have on the entire industry, even to this day. I mean, just cite a few examples of what he came up with. Very, very creative, very innovative with the TV show that he did. They shot it in either 3 or 4 cameras. He put wheels on the camera tripod so they could be moved around. They shot I Love Lucy in front of a live audience. They shot it in film, not video, so it was of higher quality, it was preserved better, and it essentially created the sitcom. Unbelievable. The rerun also. So they owned the footage because the studios didn't want to pay the extra money for all these special requests that Big DESI was making. And so anyway, very smart businessman. I remember being in a situation, and Danny Thomas was talking about Big DESI, who had helped him with his show Make Room for Daddy, if you guys remember that. And Danny Thomas said, DESI might have spoken with an accent, but he didn't think with one. And boy, was that true. Very smart man, brilliant man. So anyway, we get to the house. It's right on the beach in Del Mar. It's one of the most fabulous neighborhoods. You know how beach communities are. They're this little streets, and then the homes that sat right on the beach, they usually had like a littler street, like an alleyway almost in front. And that's where DESI lived at 1920 Ocean Way, I believe. Ocean Front, that's what it was, on 19th Street. And it was a 2-story. We pulled up, and there was like, I believe, a 3-car garage. And inside was sitting the most beautiful dark gold California Roadster Ferrari, body by Pininfarina. It was just gorgeous. I'd seen Dennis Wilson's beautiful red Berlinetta Ferrari, but this one was special. And I've never seen one like it since. Gorgeous car. So anyway, we walk through the gates, and there's a bit of a courtyard. It's a Spanish-style home. And there are, dwelling quarters above the garage, and then the main house. And Big DESI had his own suite, I like to call it, above the main house, which he had built on. And you'd get there by an outside staircase. And it was it was basically one big bedroom, and then the bathroom, a kitchen. It had a sauna and a commanding view of the Pacific. A lot of windows and sliding windows, and just a fantastic place to live. So anyway, we go to the front door, and there he is. There's DESI Arnaz Sr., you know, big as life. So happy to see DESI. Just so happy, you know. I think he called him, hey, amigo, what are you doing, Cuban? You know, like that, called him Cuban. And very, very welcoming to me, big handshake. Billy, how are you? Come on in. And the home was really kind of simple, but it was a beach house, but very nice, but not ostentatious. Very comfy, very livable. There was a pool table here as you walked in, and the kitchen was over here, and there was rooms along a corridor. That's where DESI and I slept. We had bunk beds that we slept in, and DESI's mother also lived with him at this residence. DESI and his sister Lucy called her abuela, which means grandmother in Spanish, and her name was Desiree, I believe. And anyway, there was a living room area and an area that was right on the beach, facing the beach, I should say, you know, with a table and an outside patio, a lot of windows, a lot of light. It was fantastic. And I remember having breakfast at that area, and there was, you know, rashers of bacon and sausage and, you know, toast and pancakes and you name it. And I was sitting here like this, and Big DESI's sitting here at the head of the table. And in the middle of the breakfast I'm eating, it was, Billy, look, I think I see a whale. And I stop what I'm doing, I look out, and he grabs a piece of my bacon. I look at him, he's chomping on my bacon. Very funny. Back to eating. Billy, look, I think there's another whale. I look, you know, bam, another piece of bacon. Very funny bit. I mean, can you imagine doing this with DESI Arnaz Sr.? So funny. Anyway, one of the reasons we were there, DESI and I, was to do a charity event in which we were going to back up DESI, and if you can believe, Jimmy Durante also, who was DESI's best friend, if you can believe. Sort of an odd couple, but best friends nonetheless. Jimmy had a home a couple of doors away, and Jimmy also had a home in Beverly Hills, right on 500 block of Beverly, as I recall. And so we were there to rehearse a few songs with DESI. DESI Jr. was going to be on drums, I'm going to play acoustic guitar, or electric guitar, excuse me, and Big DESI was going to play acoustic guitar. And he was a fine guitar player, let me tell you, and a great singer. I mean, how about this one? I love Lucy, and she loves me. We're as happy as two can be. Sometimes we quarrel, but then how we love making up and then Lucy kisses like no one can. She's my missus and I'm her man, and life is heaven, you see. 'Cause I love Lucy and I love Lucy and Lucy loves me. How great of a theme song is that? Wow. And when you think about it, as my friend Little Lucy pointed out in a TV special she did, the title, I Love Lucy, is referring back to DESI. He loves Lucy. So he's implied in the title of that song. Great song. You know, DESI was known for, you know, Babaloo, 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 yay! And it's kind of a funny word, isn't it? And it sort of is a comical thing, I think, that is associated with DESI Babaloo. Oh, DESI Arnaz Babaloo. But it's actually a very serious, it's an Afro-Spanish Creole Santorian, it's a religious chant to one of the gods. So it's quite serious. It's not really comical at all, but it sounds funny. Babaloo and his brothers, Philippe, Matty, and Jesus Alou. My certain friends will get that little inside joke. Here's one that he was pretty well known for. I'm going to just pull up a little cheat sheet here. And it goes like this. Whenever old man trouble makes trouble arise, just put a big straw hat over your eyes. You'll never see the circumstance time making you frown if you just put your eyes under the crown. Life can be a simple thing to make you say, get yourself a hat of straw and put it on. Don't take it off. And pretty soon the troubles will come to an end, because you simply will not see them again. You'll visualize this permanent sun in the sky when you put your big straw hat over your eyes. Life can be a simple thing to laugh and sing. Get yourself a hat of straw and put it on. Don't take it off. Hey, there are my notes. Another great catch. All those years in Little League paid off. Anyway, here's another one that just briefly, they call me Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beats. When I play the maracas, they go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom. You know, he's associated with so many great fun songs like that, you know, almost you call them like novelty songs in a way. Anyway, I was saying Jimmy Durante was going to be a special guest at this charity event to sing Ink-a-dink-a-dink-a-dink-a-dink, ka-dink-a-doo. And Desi Jr. and I were talking about where we did this charity event. We're not sure whether it was at the racetrack or at the hotel, which is now L'Auberge, for those of you familiar with the area. But anyway, what a memory being able to, you know, accompany Big Desi on a couple of those tunes. It's just Desi on drums, me on electric, and Big Desi on acoustic. It was fantastic. In 2002, that was the 50th anniversary of I Love Lucy. And Desi Jr. asked me if I would see if I could write a song based around a book. I think the book was called Patria, because the title of my song is Patria, meaning country or homeland. And by golly, I was able to write something. I'm going to play it for you now. And they used it in the TV special. It was set against the backdrop of old Cuba, and great footage. If you can find the special, it's really wonderful. And Desi and his sister Lucy sang it, some in English, some in Spanish. I'm going to play it for you now. Patria, Patria, where my hopes and dreams were started. Patria, Patria, long ago, but now we've parted. Yes, it seems so far away. I keep wishing you could stay with me. I'm hoping that someday we could make it the way it was meant to be. There's a place, though miles apart, it's still here inside my heart. Close my eyes and I'll be with you here in Patria, Patria. still hear your guitar strumming. Stay with me a while, Oh, I hope you like that. I haven't played that in a while. So, I want to tell you about my buddy Dennis Wilson. Moving right along. Another major personality in my life, in the world. You know, Dennis was known as a bit of a wild man and a ladies' man, but I want you to know he was a really great man and a sensitive man, kind and generous and funny, and I know that he got a reputation for himself early on. I mean, even the first concert album, you know, he did, well, I'm the kind of guy who never settles down. Wherever there are pretty girls, you know that I'm around. I hug them and I squeeze them. To me, they're all the same. I love them and I squeeze them. They don't even know my name. They call me the Wanderer. Yeah, the Wanderer. I roam around, 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 around. When I roam from town to town, I live my life without a care. And I'm as happy as a clown, with my two fists divided, and I'm going nowhere now. I'm the kind of guy who likes to roam around. I'm never in one place. I roam from town to town, and when I find myself falling for some girl, I hop right into that car of mine and drive around the world, 'cause I'm the Wanderer. Yeah, the Wanderer. I roam around, 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 around. Yeah, I'm the Wanderer. Yeah, the Wanderer. I roam around, around, around. Yeah, the Wanderer. And speaking of the Wanderer, I want to say hello to my good friends in the Bronx Wanderers who are here in town. It's a great family show, just great rock and roll, and Vinny and Vinny A, his son, they've been so good to me, and so a big hello. I can't wait to see your show again, and if you guys out there are ever in Vegas, go see their show when everything reopens again. So I remember a time Dennis came over to my parents' house, of course, in 1965. I'm 14, I'm living at home, and he drove over. He liked to visit with my father. They had a great relationship, and I'll tell you about them in another show at another time, because that's a really interesting tale of friendship. Anyway, Dennis came over to the house one day in his beautiful red Ferrari, and he asked me if I want to go for a ride, and I'd never been in his car before, and my God, such a beautiful machine. I said, of course, you know, let's go around the block. So I get in, and you know, we drive up Foothill, and we turn right, and we come down Elm, I believe it was, and pretty long blocks, and he's driving very conservatively, you know, just the sound of that 12-cylinder engine, there's nothing like it, you know, and so we're coming around the corner, and he says to me, you want to see me speed shift? Let me show you how to speed shift. I didn't know what he was talking about. So he does it just perfectly, you know. He just steps on the gas and then lets off and then slams it into second gear, and then somehow he did it without using the clutch. You know, only Dennis. He only ground the gears a little bit, you know. Such a great guy. Anyway, we used to go fishing a lot. He picked me up in the middle of the night, you know, 3 in the morning, but Dennis was, you know, a high energy guy. You know, he was up at 3 in the morning, it didn't matter. Let's go fishing, okay. And we'd go out to this place in Palos Verdes. It's like a kind of a secret cove, I like to think, that only Dennis knew about. And you walk down the cliff, down to this cove. It was lit by the moon, and there was a shipwreck off the side, and you know, near the shore. And it was kind of spooky, you know, but you know, I was with Dennis, and whenever I was with Dennis, I felt safe, you know, protected. And so we were casting from the shore, And we weren't there that long, and I hooked onto something, and I reeled it in. It took me a while. I could tell it was kind of a big fish, and I reeled it in, and it was I didn't know what it was, but Dennis knew it was a calico bass, a nice fish, a keeper, you know. And so, you know, we weren't catching to catch and release, you know, we're bringing this fish home and mom's cooking it up, you know what I'm saying? So Dennis was very competitive, and you know, he was determined to catch something. So he's out there, and he's, you know, frantically, you know, casting and recasting, and finally, wham, something hits his bait, and he pulls it in, and what he's caught is a baby tiger shark. And I'm telling you, it was really a sight to see. And those were the two fish we caught that night, and we brought them home to my parents' house. We put them in the sink and in the kitchen, and the shark was, the tail was kind of in the drain, you know, and so the head was sticking out over the edge of the sink. And so when my dad walked in later that morning, he sees the shark. He didn't know what it was, you know, because they're very ferocious looking. Even a baby, it was a baby tiger shark, you know, the teeth. You know, it spooked him because he thought, you know, it was like a snake coming out of the sink. Oh man, so funny. I remember being on tour with him. We were in Lakeland, Florida. It was just something fun to do on a day when, you know, it might have been a day off or an afternoon prior to a show. And he'd somehow, you know, go find a place, well, we're in Lakeland, so it wasn't too hard. He'd get a boat, you know, a little simple, like a rowboat, maybe it had a little outboard motor on it, and get a case, not a case, you know, a 6-pack of beer, and just go out and, you know, cast in the water and drift and talk and, you know, real lazy fishing. And we were there for hours, and he finally got something. He got, once again, it was a lake bass this time, but a bass nonetheless. And we took it back to the restaurant at the hotel, and he gave it to the chef. He had the chef cook it up, serve it to him for dinner. We had dinner at the restaurant there, and Dennis takes like 2 bites and like pushes it away, you know, orders a couple of desserts. You know, he was done with the fish. He tasted it, and that was it. And that was enough for him. And then there was another time in Florida, once again, this was in Fort Lauderdale. He had chartered a boat, and we went out deep sea fishing. It was him and Greg Jacobson, who was a friend of his and mine. Some of you Beach Boy fans may know Greg's name from over the years. And I believe he was with his wife at the time, Sean, and baby Gage. So we're out on the Atlantic, and we're deep sea fishing, and Dennis has got the big rod and reel, and Greg is fishing, and then nobody's really catching anything. Finally, it was my turn. So, you know, I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, wham, you know, I'm onto something, you know, and I'm, you know, struggling to get this fish in, and, you know, the captain's slowing the boat down, and, you know, I'm pulling on this thing, and Dennis is like getting more and more excited, and it's like, you know, he can't stand it anymore, and he's like, give me that roll, give me that rod, give me that thing. And Greg is like, hey man, leave him alone, that's his fish, you know. But Dennis was just flipping out. He wanted to bring that fish in so bad. So finally I get it in. It was a tuna that I had snagged. You know, I hadn't caught it in the mouth. It was hooked in the body. And so that's why it was difficult to get the fish in, because it was going against the water, you know, it was going sideways as I reeled it in. Anyway, we take the fish back to the dock, and we're in the marina, and Dennis just starts filleting this thing and taking the skin off, and I mean, he doesn't wait to have the chef cook it or anything. He just takes the skin off and bites right into the fish. You know, just, you know, what can I say? That was Dennis, you know. Beautiful piece of sashimi, I guess you could say. And he's throwing the remnants to the seagulls, you know, who are going nuts, you know. Wah, wah. Anyway, so funny. What memories with Dennis. One more fish story. We're in England. We're in London, England, and the Beach Boys are going to play this little venue called the Crystal Palace, which is in 1972, The Crystal Palace was like a little miniature Hollywood Bowl. It had like a lake in front of it, and then the audience. And you can see this footage on YouTube. This is the show where Elton John comes up and sits at my Wurlitzer. He's wearing a green, shiny satin suit, and we do Help Me Rhonda. And anyway, this is that show. And so in the downtime before the show, Dennis and I walked around the property, and there was a big lake, wouldn't you know, behind the venue. And so we're just walking along the shore, and all of a sudden Dennis goes, "Look at that, do you see that? You see that trout?" He spots this big, he says, "There's a big granddaddy trout in there." I said, "Okay," and I kind of saw it, you know. Anyway, we don't have a rod and reel. We don't have our little pocket fisherman, you know. So somehow, leave it to Dennis, he finds some string, you know, some twine, like some white string, some common string. And he gets a big safety pin, and he bends that pin open, and he has chewing gum, and he chews the chewing gum up and balls it up and puts it on the tip of the safety pin like it's bait, you know. And he goes to the shore, no rod, and he just, you know, throws the string and everything into the water because he sees the fish, throws it in right, and he goes, "Oh God, I just missed him," you know. The one that got away. So funny. And then who comes running up to us, bounding across the lawn with a big smile on his face, and oh my gosh, it's the host of the show, Keith Moon. You know, Keith was a character, and he was in The Who, in case you guys don't know, you know. People try to put us down, just because we get around. Well, Keith always wanted to be in the Beach Boys. I think that's kind of a well-documented fact. There's footage of The Who doing Barbara Ann with Keith, I think, singing the high part. Townsend said that he would have quit The Who to join the Beach Boys. Anyway, Keith comes running up. Couldn't have been nicer. You know, he wasn't a big man, but he was a very dynamic person. He had that 5 o'clock shadow and just those thick Anthony Newley eyebrows, if you know what I mean. And just so welcoming, and you know, the two drummers, you know, Keith and Dennis. And that was a pretty big show. The other acts were Melanie, you remember her, and Richie Havens, and actually Joe Cocker headlined it. Beach Boys weren't the headliners for some reason. I don't know what the circumstance was, but anyway, that one is worth checking out. There's another funny Keith Moon story that Jerry Beckley told me, Jerry of America. He was renting a home on Old Malibu Road, and a friend of his was spending the night in one of the guest rooms, and it's like 2, 3 in the morning, and my friend, you know, Jerry's friend wakes up, you know, it's dark in the room, he turns on the light, and there's Keith Moon, like, rifling through his pants. Fortunately, my friend's friend he wasn't wearing the pants at the time, but I don't know, Keith is looking for, I don't know what, party favors, who knows? But that was Keith, because Keith lived in Malibu for a while. So funny. You know, Dennis wrote a lot of songs in the course of his career, as you know, if you're a Beach Boy fan. But there's one that is sort of obscure. He used to come over to my sister Annie and Carl's home on Coldwater Canyon, 1902, Coldwater Canyon. And Carl had rather an upright piano there. And, you know, whoever came in who could play the piano, they would sit down and, you know, play it. And one day, Dennis started playing this figure. I thought, that's nice, you know. So I took the liberty of embellishing on the chords And I brought it to Dino and Desi and played it for them. I added a bridge, and they liked it, and we worked on it, and Desi had some beautiful words from a poem written by Robert Frost, and we incorporated those lyrics into the song, and Dino, Desi, and I recorded it. And the poem was called Away, and we called it Away also. And it's sort of, in the Beach Boys circles, it's like, whatever happened to that song, Away, that you wrote with Dennis? And it was never released, though we did record it. And but I'm going to see if I can play a little bit of it for you here. I haven't played it in a long, long time. By the way, when we recorded it, I remember putting masking tape on the piano strings to deaden them, to mute them, so they sounded more like they were plucked than struck, if you know what I mean. So anyway, in a word, in a song, we all belong to one another. And at times when I'm feeling lonely, know how much we need each other. But I feel I need something more. I know there has to be another door. This is just the start, my journey's end. My heart stays with you here, my friend. Forget that myth, there's no one I am put out with or put out by. I feel my time is close at hand. Dum-dooby-doo. I wonder if you'll understand. Dum-dooby-doo. Please understand. Unless I'm wrong, I but obey the urge of the song. Bound away, and I'll return if dissatisfied with what I've learned from having died. Pretty, isn't it? Well, that was Dennis's sensitivity coming out in that song. And as it turns out, all these years later, and I'm talking 50 years later, the song, that snippet that Dennis did eventually record, ended up on the 1968 Wake the World, The Friends Sessions album that was released as an iTunes download in 2018. It's only about a minute long, but if you, if you can find that or, download it, you will get to hear what Dennis did with that song, a snippet of it. By the way, I've never performed that song, or Desi and I never performed that song in public, so that was a first. I was living at the beach. I was not a surfer ever. I surfed once in Waikiki when Dino, Desi, and Billy went to Hawaii with the Beach Boys. I surfed once with Bruce Johnston and Desi. We all surfed Waikiki. That was the one and only time, 1965. But I was living at the beach in Diego, down in Mission Beach, in the summer of '95. And, I had played the Beach Boys surf songs for so many years, whether it was, Surfin' or Surf at Safari or Surfing USA. And I decided to write my very own surf song. And with the help of my dear friend Michael Angeloff, who's probably watching the show tonight. Hi, Michael and Koila. Welcome to my little show. We wrote this surf song. Turn on the radio, I'm listening in stereo. Going to the beach today. The DJ says they're breaking 3 to 4. I'm gonna do some shredding today. I'll throw my board in the back of my Ford, cruise on down to the coast. It's just after dawn and it won't be long. I'll be doing what I love the most. I'm gonna ride that wave and I'll be brave. I'm gonna ride that wave. When you make it outside, sometimes you just thank God you're still alive. But then your heart starts thumping, your adrenaline's a pumping, you kick it in overdrive. Then you turn around, start to paddle, take your drop and you make your turn. And when you're covered on the face, your mind starts to race deep down in your soul. You just wanna burn. I'm gonna ride that wave and I'll be brave. I'm gonna ride that wave. I'm gonna drop on in bottom, turn and do it all again. I'm gonna ride that wave. That was dedicated to Dennis and Desi, the real surfers in my life, and Michael Angeloff, who happens to be a world-class surfer himself. Oh boy, I'm going to take a little sip of my special iced tea, lemonade, and spritzer here and tell you a little bit about another major figure in music and in my life, Jimmy Page. By the way, my shows usually run 30 minutes, but lately I've been going long. Tonight I'm going to go long again because I want to. And these are cool stories, and I hope you're enjoying them because I'm enjoying telling them to you. Jimmy was #1 call musician in England when he was growing up. You could liken him to, you know, like a James Burton or a Glenn Campbell or Tommy Tedesco, or you know, the guys that always got the call to do the sessions in LA. Jimmy was that guy in England, and he really knew what he was doing at a young age. And you know, he'd been in the Yardbirds, and in 1968-69 he formed Led Zeppelin. Well, so I'm a senior in high school at Loyola, 1969, and one of my classmates comes to class, and I think it was before the class started. He holds up the first Led Zeppelin album. He's like, look at this, new group from England, you know. And there's the picture of the Hindenburg crashing, and it's like, Led Zeppelin, what? And you know, I just didn't get any of it. I didn't understand the name or the symbolism, and then when I heard the music, it was like, I didn't get it either. I mean, I didn't particularly like it. I mean, keep in mind, I came from the Beach Boys world of 3, 4, 5-part harmony. And this was 69, this is on the heels of Friends, you know. We've been friends now for so many years. And you know, it's automatic when I talk with old friends, a conversation turns into girls we knew. So I did not want to know from this hard driving English blues band, you know. I really didn't. And it took me a long time to, it was an acquired taste in their music. And their musicianship was unquestionable. John Paul Jones, John Bonham, I mean, you know, and Robert Plant, I mean, incredible voice. But at the time, I just didn't get it. I didn't want to get it. But they were a great power trio. I mean, when you think of power trios, you think of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, right? And The Who, and Cream, and Dino, Desi, and Billy, and Led Zeppelin, right? You put us all right in the same category, right? You know, power trios. Except they had a front man. Jimmy was quoted as saying, I watched an interview with him the other day, I was creating an art form and persona from day one and living it every inch of the way. He was so committed to presenting different, interesting textures, and the ethos of moving and moving and moving forward was just intoxicating. That's paraphrasing what Jimmy spoke about. Anyway, it's 1985, and Tom Hewlett of Concerts West, who had booked Led Zeppelin, got Jimmy to agree to play with the Beach Boys at the 4th of July in Philadelphia and in Washington, D.C. And that was quite a coup, I must say. I mean, at this point this is 85, Led Zeppelin and Jimmy had not been in action at all. The group went from 68 till 80 when their drummer, John Bonham, died. And so Jimmy was, even more reclusive than normal. And it was a bit of a mystery what he had been doing. I mean, you cannot argue with the Led Zeppelin success. I mean, they did 9 albums and sold 300 million units. I mean, for instance, etc. Whoops, let me try that again. Better. There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. When she gets there, she knows if the stores all closed, with a word she can get what she came for. I mean, that song was never even a single. It was totally an album cut, never made it as a single. They didn't want to release it as a single. But I started to catch on to them and like them. See, for instance, been a long time since a rock and roll. Been a long time since I did that stroll. Yeah, great rock and roll. So anyway, the first time I met Jim was in Washington, D.C. when we were staying at the hotel. Initially, all the acts were staying there, and then we took the train to Philadelphia on the day of the 4th of July. So he had his own car. He had a girlfriend with him, very attractive woman, I thought. And contrary to what I had expected to see and meet, he was so genteel and polite and soft-spoken, and just couldn't have been sweeter and nicer. And it was a revelation. I could not tell you how surprised I was at the different person that I met than who I thought I was going to meet. You know, he revealed that he hadn't had a drink in like 5 days, so I thought that was real professional. He was trying real hard to be clear and to be, you know, on point for the show. And he was, believe me. I was present backstage in Philly with Carl and him in the dressing room with a couple other guys in the band talking about the keys and what are we going to do, and you know, we all decided that we're going to open with Lucille, and then he'd do Barbara Ann. I think he might have sat in for Surfing USA. But there are quite a few other acts on the bill that day. You know, the Oak Ridge Boys. Elvira, Elvira, my heart's on fire for Elvira. Oom papa, bow bow, giddy up, oom papa, bow bow. I, oh silver, away. And Joan Jett. I love rock and roll, so put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll, so put another dime and dance with it. I love rock and roll, so put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll, so put another dime and dance with me. And Katrina and the Wave, you remember her? I'm walking on sunshine. Christopher Cross. Sailing takes me away to where I'm going. Anyway, it was a great bill. Mike Love said the most brilliant thing, I thought, when he was bringing Jimmy up. By the way, I'm standing with the Oak Ridge Boys watching some of the show. There are estimates that there were 1 million people in the streets that day. And you know, I played for some big crowds, but to see 1 million people is indescribable. As far as the eye could see, of course. In the trees, on the telephone poles, you name it. And the Oak Ridge Boys were standing there looking out there going, one of them said to the other, you know, we ought to get more, we should get more shows like this. And I said, well, good luck with that, to myself, you know. Because no way were they going to ever see another crowd like that. So anyway, before Mike brings Jimmy up, he's really milking it, you know, and the crowd knows that it's time. The Beach Boys have done most of their set. The crowd knows it's time for Jimmy to come on stage, and they are just revved. And so Mike is really milking it, you know. So, now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is. All the way from London, England, and the crowd is getting more and more wound up. And here's the line that is the best. We're going to build a stairway to Rhonda. Stairway to Rhonda. How great is that? I said to myself, man, you are good. You are really good. Here he is, Jimmy Page. And I cannot even describe the reaction that the crowd had. It was pure pandemonium. It was just off the hook. Crazy and screaming and chaotic and insane reaction to him. It was unbelievable. You know, I mean, Jimmy is an old pro. I mean, he just strolled onto the stage, you know, and he did a very interesting introductory thing on his guitar. He was playing a Fender Telecaster B-Bender, which is an invention by Clarence White and Gene Parsons, not Graham Parsons, but Gene Parsons. And what it was a strap was attached to the peg here, and whenever you would go like this, it would bend, this mechanism would pull the string to make it rise a full step. So if it was a B note, it would rise it to a C sharp, a whole step. Anyway, we did Lucille, please come back where you belong. Lucille, please come back where you belong. I'm begging to you, baby, please don't do no wrong. got on the train back to DC. We're almost at an hour, and I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty soon. But anyway, we're on the way back to DC in the train, and I'm in the car with Mr. T and Frank Stallone, who knew he was actually a really good singer, and he had a real tight, like a rhythm and blues singing band with him. Anyway, Mr. T would not shut up the whole trip, and he made my buddy Mike Kowalski, Beach Boys drummer, crazy because he was sitting right next to him. I found him amusing. He was walking up and down the aisles. He was wearing these big engineer gloves, and he was really cold. And at one point, he got so cold he decided he's going to remove the emergency window from the train. And then he was happy because then it warmed up. But I'm here to tell you, when we pulled into the train station in DC, and those train masters were walking along the train and saw this missing window, they were not happy, not in the least. So, and I ended up with him in the trailer on the property at DC, you know, the mall where we'd played the year before with Ringo and Three Dog Night and Julio, and that's another segment, another show for another time. But Jimmy came out, and he really, you know, he was a little bit more free and looser at that point, and he was, you know, like he did this weird facial expression where he puffs up his cheeks, and you know, his girlfriend was back behind the amplifiers, like blowing smoke at him. It was odd, to say the least, but they were into something, I don't know what. And he would, like, you know, at some point he would, like, I'd be on the piano, he'd like sort of charge me, you know, like that. Like, I don't know whether I was the bull or the matador or what, but it was sort of like that. Anyway, after the show, and it was intense, the nighttime show, Christopher Cross, Joan Jett, Brian Wilson was there playing a guitar, keyboard that looks like a guitar, and it was wild. Lots of people, only 500,000 people, I think. So we were in the shuttle bus taking us back to the hotel, and of course everyone wants to gravitate to Jimmy, and I'm sitting behind him, and the band guys are around him, and he's talking about how people were going like this to him, you know, like this. And he said, I thought they were hexing me, you know, putting a hex on him. And he was swinging out of a bottle of Jack Daniels. I guess he had, you know, gone back to having a little libation after the show. And he hands me the bottle, and I take a swig off of it. I mean, you know, when Jimmy Page hands you the bottle of Jack Daniels, you drink the bottle of Jack Daniels with him. You know what I'm saying? And but my drinking days are long over. But that night was special. And the next time I saw him was, you know, Live Aid was only 9 days later. Live Aid was July 13th, back in Philly, where the Beach Boys performed and Led Zeppelin reunited. And then Beach Boys ended up in Manhattan, New York City, and I went to see Les Paul play at a nightclub called Fat Tuesday. And lo and behold, there's Jimmy and Jonesy. John Paul Jones, and we said hello, and you know, nice to see you again, and you know, it was really great to see him again. And that's the last time I saw him. Though he gave me his phone number before we parted company in DC, and I called it once, but it just rang and rang. He never picked up. But if I were to see him today, I would certainly say hello. Great guy, great memories. Anyway, boy, I hope you've enjoyed my show. I went an hour tonight. Jeez. Thank you for letting me into your home and for sharing this time with you. And I really appreciate it. It's an honor. If you have enjoyed yourself, if you had some laughs or just had some memories of your own, I'm happy for that. And if you're so inclined, there's that PayPal link, there's that Venmo link. Send in whatever you like, whenever you like, as often as you like. And a portion of the proceeds go to MusiCares. Here we go. Positivity every day. Positivity in every way. Positivity, what I need. Positivity, yes indeed. All right. Positivity throughout the day. Positivity, that's what I Oh yeah, come on. I thank you so much. I wish you all the great things that life has to bring, and I hope to see you again. Good night.